The Monday, December 16th, 2024 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Gottlieb.
Here.
Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Mayer.
Here.
Commissioner Ottaway. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel.
Here.
And Mayor Hanley.
Here. Commissioners, we have an agenda in front of us. Do we have a motion? Commissioner Davis?
I move we approve the agenda with one slight change. I would like to move item number 3C to new business.
Okay. Do we have a second? Commissioner Gottlieb?
Second.
Perfect. Any discussion? No. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. City Clerk, can you please move that item there? Perfect. All right. I do not have any announcements today, so that brings us to boards and committees. We have one reappointment tonight. Commissioners, do I have a motion? Commissioner Pro Tem Schlegel?
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to recommend the reappointment of Taylor Klipp to the City of Marquette representative of the Marquette County Transit Authority for a term ending 12/31/27.
And a second? Commissioner Larson?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Just know that Taylor's been a great asset in other areas, and I'm sure he's going to serve us well once more on this board.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Anyone else? All in favor?
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. This brings us to our first public comment portion of the evening. Public comment may not exceed 3 minutes per person. When addressing the commission, please state your name and physical address. Do we have anyone for public comment tonight? Anyone? All right. With that, public comment is closed, and we will move on to our presentation tonight. We have one presentation from the Downtown Development Authority by Executive Director Tara Lassie McKinney. Thank you for being here, Tara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. All right. So once again, thank you, commissioners, for having me tonight for the 2024 annual presentation for the Marquette Downtown Development Authority. As a side note, this satisfies the second of two required meetings for the Act PA 57 of 2018 as required. So the mission of the DDA is essentially to prevent the deterioration in the business district, encourage historic preservation, increase property tax valuation, and promote economic growth. Our fundamental goals are to increase those property values, create and maintain a favorable business and investment environment, ensure the sustainability of the district, and support downtown property owners, businesses, professionals, and residents. So you can see we have a very large downtown district going all the way up 3rd Street to Fair. We have Washington Street from 7th all the way to the Lakeshore. Lakeshore, quite a ways down there towards the lake. And then we also have Spring Street, Baraga, and much of the Lakeshore as well that we take care of. It's about 6.5 miles of sidewalks that we are responsible for even in the winter. A little bit of background. As you can see, we've been around for a long time. Right now, we are currently in TIF Plan number 4, which goes through 2036, and that incorporated North 3rd Street into our TIF that we currently have. And you can see our statistics. We have a very large number of businesses, both in the core downtown and the 3rd Street. Those employees and residents numbers are approximate. We have a board of directors consisting of 9 people, including our city manager. And here is our DDA staff, myself. We have Jody Lanciani, Mike Bradford, Brian Shire, Madeline Mays, and Nathan Kartheiser, as well as quite a few of maintenance staff who are both full and part-time. All right, so These are our TIF district assessed property values from 1992 all the way up to 2024. So you can see we started back in 92, going up through 2024. You'll notice a large increase in last year's number. That is because we added on 3rd Street, so that that number includes all of the districts, or excuse me, all of the properties valuation up on 3rd Street. And so I believe I did have a question earlier on about the difference between the initial base value and the captured value and the assessed value. So the captured value is how much we have gotten over the years since our inception. And then our 2024 assessed value, that's the actual number that you can see there, total of all of the properties in the district. All right, so you can see our total revenue here is $1,985,953.62. We have a outstanding bond payment of $146,023. And then our total expenditures were $1,751,439. So we still have an outstanding bond indebtedness of $524,000 with both principal and interest remaining on that. So our revenue sources primarily come through TIF. This year, 1.160 million of that came from our core downtown, and about 19,000 of that came from 3rd Street. We also have a 2 mil property tax levy, which accounts for about 2% of our total revenue sources. Parking revenue is about 27%, and then a few other miscellaneous revenue sources there. Some farmers market revenue, some flow through, some promotions. Our fiscal year expenditures, 36% was personnel costs, 20% was just general maintenance and operating costs, and then capital projects and equipment. The rest of that going to, like I said before, our bond principal and interest, professional services, and a few other miscellaneous items as well there. So now we're going to start getting into the different things that we take care of as the DDA, one of them being parking. So as far as what we have for our parking management, or our parking facilities, we have 8 parking lots, plus our Bluff Street ramp. We have 775 total spaces in our parking lots. Our on-street parking spaces in the core downtown is 433. 321 of those are paid, 122 of those are free. Our on-street parking on 3rd Street is 142, and that is free for 2 hours. And our total public parking spaces is 1,340, 80% of those being paid, 20% being free. And that's paid during the weekdays during the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have 38 pay stations. We have the Passport parking app that we utilize, and a dual port electric vehicle charging station, which year over year has seen additional increased use year over year. In 2024, we awarded 14 employee parking grants for businesses with part-time employees. So we're able to support businesses that way through parking. We gave out numerous Passport parking app coupons to get people more used to using that Passport parking app. We converted our Rock Street lot to permit parking and hourly paid parking via the pay station or app. We collected a ton of parking data. We updated a number of spots in the districts, and we counted parking cars at various days and times of the year, and we collect that data to make sure that we're managing the spots properly and making sure that we are, making sure that there's adequate supply of parking throughout the district. We also did a lot of asphalt repairs and restriping, particularly at the North Main lot and the Commons lot. They had some wear and tear going on there, so we were able to fix that. At the bluff ramp, we did seam and joint repairs, and we painted the stair towers there. That seam and joint repairs was a really big investment for us into the longevity of the Bluff Street ramp, as is approaching the end of its life. So we're doing everything we can to make sure we are keeping that in good shape as long as we can. And we did numerous elevator repairs and upgrades at both of the elevator towers. Some of our goals for next year, we have a lot more infrastructure upkeep and repairs to keep up with. We are continuing our downtown business parking grant for part-time employees, and we're exploring parking management needs on 3rd Street. And we're going to continue to do that. So our analysis for 2024, we had parking revenues of $541,927, and our parking expenditures for last fiscal year was $590,266. So that means we did spend about $48,339 more than we took in. We always do try to aim to even that out. Sometimes more expenses do end up popping up than the amount of revenues that we receive, primarily being those Bluff Street ramp repairs. So what the parking money actually goes towards, we have snow removal and sidewalk clearing, parking lot maintenance and maintenance of elevators, stair towers, and Bluff Street ramp, line striping, and lighting of all the downtown parking lots. So we have some pictures here of some of the projects that we did this year. We replaced some doors there on Washington Street going to the Main Street Tower. We did a lot of painting all over the place, restriping, and some of that sidewalk repair, or asphalt repair as well. Another thing that we did was we were able to give away some grant money for facade improvement grants, which was really nice. We awarded $23,276.30 in grant funds to 4 different property owners to make exterior facade improvements through the local facade improvement grant program. So we were able to give funds to Tervo Insurance Agency, which was formerly Foy Insurance on Washington Street, Third Coast Pizzeria, Wintergreen Hill Gallery and Gifts, and Beth Milner Jewelry. These four projects leverage more than $65,000 in downtown investment. And because of the success of this grant program, we are bringing that grant program back in 2025, which is open right now, with $60,000 in funds available for downtown building owners. That means that's at least 8 grants possible for 2025, with a 2-to-1 match up to $7,500 from the DDA for qualifying projects. So we did bump up that number, and we find that that's been a lot more lucrative for business owners. So we've gotten a ton more interest in that program for this year. Another thing we take care of is maintenance. So, we do summer landscaping and lawn care, winter plowing, shoveling, sanding, and salting, sweeping, trash removal, and cleaning. We water all those beautiful hanging flowers that you see around the downtown. We also make sure that those get put up every year. We hang the holiday greenery baskets you might see around town right now. We install holiday lights. We maintain the Marquette Commons. Our maintenance staff does tons of event and farmers market setup and tear down. We maintain that Bluff Street ramp and all sorts of different parking lots throughout the downtown. We have our pay station maintenance and collections of all those coins that go in there. We have the maintenance of elevators, stair towers, and pedestrian connectors, and we implement different special projects. Now we're going to talk about the downtown Marquette Farmers Market. So the first chart we have there is a vendor breakdown. As you can see, we've had a steady growth in the amount of vendors we've had year over year, and part of that is because of the Wednesday market. We've continued to see growth and success in that Wednesday market, and we've had a lot more artisans come on board as well because of that Wednesday market. Our Saturday market customer count, well, it looks like that number went down. We don't actually think that number went down. We did start working with Michigan State University to start doing customer counts. Unfortunately, they were only able to get to 2 of the Saturday markets to do customer counts. So that's an average of only 2 days versus every market previous days. So we think we're staying pretty close in line, at least, with seeing higher number of customers year over year. So the income for the farmers market, as you can see, it went up again this year, and we're seeing a lot more coming in, or sorry, we're seeing more come in for vendor fees. This year we actually did have merch sales, which went really, really well. We had some really great t-shirts, bags, pins, things like that. We were able to collect some donations this year. We also collected sponsorships this year. Unfortunately, we did not have a music sponsor, so you did see that number go down just a little bit. And then we have been collecting a little bit of money for the last few years on ATM fees as well. But I think the bigger part here is that, you know, the farmers market is making plenty of money and it is sustaining itself. Another thing that we're really proud of with the farmers market is the amount of food assistance that comes through our office and back out to those farmers. So we have a wide variety of different types of food assistance that we accept. We have SNAP, Double Up Food Bucks, WIC, Senior WIC, Power of Produce, Food as Medicine, and Fresh Food Access. So Food as Medicine really expanded this year. And we had a lot more people come and redeem those vouchers through our market. And then Fresh Food Access is actually kind of goes hand in hand with that Food as Medicine. And so it gets some items that people weren't able to get through Fresh Food Access, like fresh meats, honey, or fresh non-vegetable type items for individuals. So we were able to help the community, help our vendors, and make our farmers market successful all at the same time. We also do a lot of events and promotions. As you can see, we have a ton of different events that we put on throughout the downtown. We had downtown trick-or-treating. We did close down the 200 block, or the 100 block of 200 block of Washington Street. However, it is a downtown-wide event. We had Blueberry Festival, music on 3rd, up on 3rd Street, going June, July. I did have to cancel, I think July actually. And then August and September, we were able to fully shut down the street come September, which was pretty successful. And then we had classic cars on 3rd as well. So a whole variety of different events. We also partner with other organizations in the community to help them put on events as well. The UP 200, Festival of the Angry Bear, Queen City Half Marathon, Marquette Marathon, the Margie Gessick 50-mile bike race start, and the New Year's Eve ball drop. So that's just a few of the bigger ones that we actually assist with. There's plenty of other ones as well, a lot of smaller races, things like that. So all sorts of really great events out there that we partner with. We welcomed a lot of new businesses in 2024. And one of the things I do want to point out is 3 of these new businesses were actually former vendors at the farmers market. So we see that as a really big success, that we were able to kind of help somebody get their business off the ground at the farmers market, and then they were able to make that leap into starting a storefront in our downtown. So we think that's really great. As you can see, all of those different ones. And we did have a few that said goodbye, but lucky for us, most of those places, when they closed up shop, somebody was there ready to go in right after them. So we have very low vacancy rates in downtown right now. And then we get into our 2025 goals and objectives. So we want to keep working with the City Commission to finalize our 30-year TIF extension. We're going to explore modifications to the Marquette Commons facility for placemaking initiatives and for farmers market suitability and upgrades. We are definitely busting at the seams at the market with the farmers market, so we're going to keep looking at, ways of making that a lot better. We're going to continue to seek grant funding for public improvement projects and to assist property owners with making property improvements. Work towards a wayfinding signage program throughout the entire district. We're going to work with the city to fix old coal bunkers on the 100 block of North 3rd Street. We're going to work with design firms and Baraga Avenue businesses on a street redesign for 100 block of West Baraga Avenue. We're hoping to get that started in 2025, at least discussions. sidewalk improvements around the district, including Bluff Tree Alley, North 3rd Street, and other areas. We have some bits of sidewalk here and there that are just looking kind of sad, so we're hoping to make those a bit better for everybody. And we're going to continue investing in upgrades to the Bluff Street ramp. And that's pretty much everything. Yeah. So, do you have any questions for me?
Yes, Tara, that's
Yes.
a lot of stuff you're dealing with.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That was
Sure.
a good presentation. I have, I guess I have to apologize up front, but I have a lot of random questions and
Sure.
comments.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to see the parking grants for those businesses that have part-time employees. It
Yeah.
was something I was worried about when we started the whole parking thing. So
Yeah.
that's a very nice thing to see. I'm also really appreciative of the facade grants
Yeah.
because it just makes our downtown so much more visually appealing. And I'm glad that you sent this to us ahead of time because I looked at all of the new businesses and I hadn't heard of a lot of them. So I went on a little scavenger hunt today. I didn't have to pay parking because it was after 3 o'clock and you have free parking after
do.
3 in
Yep,
case
through
anybody's
Christmas right
interested.
now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I found all of the new businesses except one.
Sure.
But, and so it was good to find out where they were. I also looked for those coal bunkers. Could you help me with that? I could not
Sure.
find anything
So-
that looked like coal bunkers. And
So
what do you
won't-
want to do with them?
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily see them from the street. So if you are at the intersection of Washington Street and 3rd Street, you're looking north. So on the northeast corner, right next to Euphoria, if you're on that corner there, you'll see a metal kind of a sheet of metal on the sidewalk there. Kind of unassuming.
Yeah.
This time of year, it's kind of slick because it's metal and then it gets some snow on it and you might slip on it. That might be the one way you notice it. But underneath of where that is and going further north, there's 2 or 3 different hollow spaces underneath the sidewalk. And you can access those through those 2 buildings there, through Euphoria and then where Thrivent Financial is. But they are actually in the public right-of-way there. So they have been empty there for many, many years since people used to fill those with coal back when they heated buildings with coal back 75, 100 years ago. And they've just sat empty there. And over time with with weather and with water leaking through the cement there, those bunkers have started to deteriorate. The cement there is very thick, but it has started to deteriorate and eat away. So we were able to go, I went with some of the city engineers and we were able to look at those and get some pictures. And actually we worked with a local engineering company to give us some estimates on, what it's going to take to actually get those repaired. And it's going to be a lot because we want to make sure that we get those filled, but also we don't damage those buildings there. So right now we're looking at we can only put certain pieces of our machinery on those sidewalks because we don't want to put anything too heavy on there to further damage the sidewalk there or cause a terrible accident. So we're very careful with what we put on that sidewalk there and we're babying it until we can get that fixed.
Okay, great. Thank you. That helps me. No wonder I couldn't find them.
Yeah, they are hidden, but once you see it, you'll see a few cracks there and you'll
I
say,
think I
"Oh,
did see
I know
that.
what that is." Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to collapse underneath me. Could you go back to the map that you had?
Sure.
Maybe I didn't weigh enough.
There.
Okay, I found this interesting. What makes a building a landmark building, and why do we need to identify those?
Oh, so essentially we put those on there just to kind of help people who might not be familiar with downtown to kind of orient themselves. Nothing in particular other than we just wanted a few places to kind of put to help people orient themselves really.
Okay. All right, my next question
Yes.
is in the key you have public restrooms.
Yes.
But I didn't find any in there, but maybe my thing was a little too short. I'm assuming there's public
So there
restrooms
is
at the
public
Commons.
restrooms. There is at the Commons, and that might have gotten.
You can see it in the comments right there.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to see. It is
Okay.
very hard to see, but it is right there.
Okay, all right. Are there any others?
Those are the public ones that we have right now in the downtown. In our downtown plan, we do have someday as a goal to potentially explore other ones. But right now, we don't have any particular plans
And we
on
have
that.
no public restrooms on Third Street, do we?
Not currently.
It's a question I have had come to me a couple times about not enough public restrooms in our whole city, but mostly the
Certainly,
DDA.
certainly.
Okay, my one last question
Yes.
about this map.
Yes.
Is this map on the southern border
Mm-hmm.
goes all the way through the Hampton Inn, but the map that you showed us last year in September goes halfway through the Hampton Inn. Which one is
Yeah,
it?
so this is a little bit stylized, and I would not ever use this to say like a particular property is entirely in or entirely out. So the way that we essentially kind of manage when a property is on the boundary of our district is if it's like partly in and partly out, much like it is at the Hampton Inn, we just consider that as part of our boundary or within our boundary. So wouldn't-
Officially, is it halfway through the Hampton Inn?
it is officially halfway through the
Okay,
Hampton Inn.
thank you.
Yes.
That's
Kind
kind
of
of what I've
follows-
been telling people, but.
Yeah, so it follows Rock Street, right straight through the middle of that.
All right, I have one last question, and that goes back to your chart that I was asking you about earlier.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Hold on. Wrong way.
Yeah,
Oops, I'm going the wrong direction, sorry. There.
this.
Yes.
Yes, this one. So you talk about the base value in 1992, but the TIF began in 1994. So why is
It
that
became
different?
Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I'm so sorry. Our TIF district started in 1992.
It says
TIF development
1994.
plan number.
Oh, the plan was 94, but it started in 1992?
Number 2, TIF plan number 2 started in 1992.
1992 to 2013.
19, so that chart just talks about TIF plan number 2, not number 1.
From 84? Yeah, so that is in there. It just doesn't go back that far, all the way.
So when we talk about TIF, our base value starts in 1992 or 1984?
So overall, it does start in 84.
Okay.
But that only accounts for about, I think it's 2 blocks. So yeah, there is like that 8 years of a pretty small area. I don't have a map on here that shows exactly where that 84 block was, but yeah, it does actually start in 84.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm just trying to get rid of some of my confusion.
Oh,
I think-
sure.
I think that's it. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Any other commissioners?
I would.
Commissioner Ottaway?
Thank you, Tara. Let me turn my mic on. I don't know that that's going to help you, but, so first thing I wanted to just ask, as I look at just kind of the issues kind of with parking, those are some of the
Sure.
things that get brought up to me a little bit. Do we have any rough numbers on what the usage is for the app compared to the parking meters themselves?
I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but I will say that the app usage is growing.
Yeah.
Year over year, it continues to grow, which is really great. That's kind of what we want to see. Ideally, over time, we're going to want to kind of try to phase out those pay stations, not get rid of them entirely. We would never want to do that, but they are expensive and they require a lot of maintenance. And most everybody, myself included, has one of these in their pockets, which makes it really handy to, pay for parking from the convenience of your car.
Absolutely.
And then, re-up in a store if you need extra time, things like that. So it is growing, but I don't know the exact number right off the top of my head.
Irrelevant. I
Yeah.
guess the messaging on the app is awesome. Sally brought up the idea of when she was using the app, it told her that you didn't have to pay. I was just doing that the other day myself. One of the pieces of feedback I get from people in the community, if they're not using the app, a lot of times they don't know if there's free parking. Is there any talk about increasing signage during that time to put notes out saying, hey, parking is free because of holidays? 'Cause otherwise they don't know unless they're using the app.
Some years we have put out
I
like,
understand that, but the pay
yeah.
station's not that helpful if you walk to it, and you're parked in a parking lot, for instance.
Yeah, there have been years in the past where we have put out signage, just letting people know, and I don't think that got done this year, but that's something we can definitely take note of and make sure that we do for next year.
Absolutely. Another question for you when it comes to the farmer's market.
Yeah.
Farmer's market, obviously steadily growing. You know, as we look over time, adding another day, doing things with what our downtown plan is, and you know, with what I'm expecting to see with the TIF extension, is there talk about a different location potentially being built someday for a new farmer's market? Because I would guess we've outgrown our venue.
I mean, it's an idea that we're always kicking around, but nothing at this point like solid that we've talked about formally. Yeah, it's definitely, we're busting at the seams there for sure. As far as like our capacity for the farmers market, it is something that we are aware of, but right now it's not anything we've got formalized.
Awesome. Okay. Last question for me. When can we hope to see the request for the TIF extension from you guys?
Soon. Yep. I've been in discussions with Karen and Sean about things, and yeah, so it should be coming pretty soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks, Tara. Again, it's exciting to see how much is going on downtown and how well it's being received. A couple things that stick out for me recently is there's been a lot of talk about ADA compliance in the downtown area, and I think it's very important to note, you know, it's nice that you've got the elevators and stairwells and things like that listed on your map here. It might be nice to put some of the handicap access or the handicap parking spaces where those are generally located for those people that need them. And I know that, you know, some of the buildings are out of date because they were built, you know, 100 plus years ago. But, and I also know that it's always on the DDA's mind that ADA compliance is not something they take lightly, and they really want to get everybody as much access as possible. So that's something that, you know, when you're doing your wayfinding, so your signage and stuff like that, maybe that's something we can incorporate. I know that's something that I grew up with my dad having his disability, and I really appreciate the access points. The other part is that people were saying that they don't like the having to pay for parking down there, and a number of these people do have some disabilities, and I didn't realize it until recently that you don't have to pay for 2 hours worth of parking if you are handicapped. You've got a properly signed placard or license plate or whatever it is that you might have. So I think that's a really nice gesture and much appreciated. So something I wanted to bring up to the people that might be watching at home, all 5 or 6 of you, but please keep in mind that you know, they really do have your best interests at heart. And lastly, the facade grants, I've said it every time that you've come up, it's exciting for me to see these come through the system and how nice they've been received by the owners of the properties and stuff. I've actually been able to work with one this past year that was qualified for it. And it's just a beautiful transformation and a great way to find those grant monies to help offset that expense. So, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I do want to emphasize what you'd mentioned about the free parking for those who may have a placard or a sticker on their license plate for those with disabilities. Yes, they are able to park in the downtown within, you know, the set time limits, whether it be 3 hours or 10 hours, whatever it may be, in the handicap spot or not. If it's more convenient for them to park, you know, in a regular spot, they are welcome to do that, and they do not have to pay those parking fees in the city of Marquette. I do want to emphasize that this is not a statewide thing. This is definitely a city of Marquette thing as well. And just to kind of piggyback on that facade thing, you know, making improvements to ADA accessibility is one of those things that we do definitely emphasize with that facade grant as well. So that is one of the many things they can spend money on with that facade, is making improvements to accessibility to businesses. We do recognize that's very important, and we do have a lot of old buildings that unfortunately, due to space constraints and things like that, just are not accessible. You know, so we want to make sure that we can help out with that wherever we can.
Thank you very much for your
Yeah.
presentation. I'm glad, like Sally, I had a chance to review it beforehand. I do have two questions. One is, how does our downtown vacancy compare to that of others of similar size?
That's a great question. I don't think I have exact numbers on that, but I will say overall our vacancy is quite low. Off the top of my head, right now we do have a few places that are vacant right now, but they are in the process of being moved into. So I would say storefront wise, we have 2 or 3 total in the whole downtown that are vacant and not being utilized. Which is pretty low compared to a lot of other places. A lot of other downtowns, unfortunately, don't have that same low vacancy rate.
And please keep in mind, I'm new to the commission, so you probably already dealt with this. Did the vacancy rate go down or up after you instituted parking costs? Or did it have no effect?
I don't know that it really had much effect on that. We've generally seen low vacancy rates across the downtown, at least since I've been around in the last 10 years or so. And I haven't seen much of a change. Like from when we went from 50 cents to $1 an hour, we really didn't see much change in that.
Well, I will speak personally, you saw a change for me.
Oh.
I definitely don't drive downtown anymore.
Well, I do want to remind you, there are at least 20% of our parking spots in the downtown that you do not have to pay for. So those are those spots available.
I'm cheap, I will. And I also don't mind riding my bike year-round. But I have had, to build off of Commissioner Ottaway's comments, one comment I've heard from at least 2 people regarding the parking app is the additional cost one gets while using the app. It would seem to me that using the app should decrease the cost of the DDA and not increase it. So can you help me explain to people who come to me and say, why am I paying extra money to use the DDA's app when I could just walk to the machine?
Sure. Because those are actually credit card fees every time that somebody is paying. And those are built in at the pay stations and they are not built in at the app. It is something that we have talked about, potentially looking at making that even across the board. But we haven't made any actual, movement to do that. But it is something we have talked about and looked at and is under discussion.
But they are the same fees at both the app and at the pay station?
Not necessarily. There's fees being paid at both, but one is coming out of our pockets and one is coming out of the use of the app.
So I can say to these people who do come to me, and they really have, it's being looked at.
It is being looked at, yeah.
And DDA is looking at it.
Yes, it's something that we're weighing out because, the cost would be essentially absorbed by the DDA. If we were to every time take that 40 cents that is paid per app, per transaction for the DDA to do that, we may end up having to look at potentially adjusting our costs as well if we were to do that. So there is that as well. There's one transaction fee, whether it be, 1 hour or 10 hours. So there is that as well.
Thank you very much for the response.
Thank you, Tara. Appreciate the presentation. Everybody's kind of answered some of my questions, but I will say, as far as the app goes, I think there is an option to prepay and kind of load some additional dollars into your account, or has that gone away now, as far as that app goes? So you only have
That is still there. It's
one-time fee.
Personally, that's not my favorite way to do things. There's a lot of other hiccups in that, using that. It isn't the best way to utilize that app, I would say.
Fair enough.
You end up with a lot of wallets with a lot of small bits of change in there, and it's kind of complicated to use. So we tend to not like to push people that way. Reloading those is kind of difficult. So.
And then my final question about the facade grants.
Yeah.
Are those first come, first serve?
Yes, they are first
Target
come.
areas?
They are first come, first serve, and it's really any business within the downtown, as long as they have not received one in the past year, or really any property, I should say, in downtown that hasn't gotten one in the last year who would like to, make improvements to their facades.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, Tara. That was very informative.
Great. Well, thank you.
All right, commissioners, this brings us to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion on consent? Commissioner Ottaway?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
In a second? Pro Tem Schlegel?
Second the motion.
Any discussion?
Nope, just a reminder, it's a roll call vote.
Woohoo! As though I don't have that in my notes. With that, City Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Gottlieb,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel,
Yes.
and Mayor Hanley.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. All right, this brings us to our first new business item of the evening, which is also a roll call vote. City Clerk, may I have the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. In 2021, representatives from Buffalo Dragon Investments, LLC, approached city staff to discuss the possibility of obtaining an obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, OPRA, exemption certificate for their recently purchased property at 136 West Washington Street. The guidelines for establishing OPRA districts and processing OPRA exemption certificates are detailed in Michigan Public Act 146 of 2000. Under this act, local government units may grant tax exemption certificates to properties within established OPRA districts. Such exemptions may have terms of up to 12 years. The applicant initially requested and was approved for a 3-year exemption, a term which began on December 31st, 2021. The applicant has now requested a 5-year extension of this exemption. Granting of this extension would mean a portion of local property taxes on the parcel will remain effectively frozen at 2021 levels during the term of the exemption. As this property is located in the Marquette Downtown Development Authority's tax increment financing district, any increases in future tax revenue would go primarily to the DDA. During the May meeting, the DDA Board of Directors voted to support this extension. Fiscal effect, none to the city. Recommendation, approve the resolution authorizing an additional 5 years to the 3-year Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act exemption certificate for 136 West Washington Street and direct the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
All right, commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Gottlieb?
I move to approve the extension of the obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate.
Okay, and a second? Commissioner Ottaway?
Second.
Discussion? Anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I would just pose a question to the city manager if I can. Are we thinking that 5 years is going to be enough for this, or are we thinking there's a potential to come back for another extension?
I believe 5 years was what was requested, and based off of, I think, some of those estimates that the property owners have done, I think that would be sufficient, and that was what was approved also with the DDA. So there will be no more extensions after this either.
Okay. No other questions.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. With that, City Clerk, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Gottlieb,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Mayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ottaway,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Schlegel,
Yes.
and Mayor Hanley.
Yes. Motion passes 7-0. All right. That brings us to our next new business new business item.
The crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. The Active Transportation Planning Services. City Clerk, can I have the background, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Marquette is the recipient of a Rural Development Fund grant from the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. The intent of this grant program is to promote the sustainability of land-based industries and support infrastructure that benefits rural communities. The purpose of this grant is to conduct essential planning for active transportation / micromobility infrastructure. The need for the planning is underscored by the increased pressure on existing bike paths resulting from both pedestrians and a significant surge in the usage of e-bikes and various forms of electric micromobility devices. The city released an RFP on October 1st to seek the services of a planning agency to engage in this planning effort. One response was received from Tool Design of Columbus, Ohio, a firm specializing in transportation-based planning, in the amount of $59,968. Staff reviewed the proposal and it met all requirements of the RFP. Fiscal effect, the contracted services will cost $59,968. The city has obtained a grant for this project, but is responsible for a 30% match, or $17,990.40. The estimated grant budget for this project was $65,000, and it is recommended that the remainder be reserved for contingency related to the project. Recommendation: approve the contract with Tool Design for active transportation infrastructure planning services, authorize the city manager or her designee to sign, and approve the use of the remainder of the project budget as contingency if required. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Davis?
I move that we approve the contract with Tool Design for active transportation infrastructure planning services, authorize the city manager or her designee to sign, and approve the use of the remainder of the project budget as contingency if required.
Thank you. And a second? Anybody? Pro Tem Schlegel?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion, Commissioner Davis?
Yes, I know I was the one that took this off of the consent agenda, and my reasoning for that is this seems to be a really important grant for our community. I would say that microtransportation, e-bikes, bikes were the #1 comments that all of us received this past year. And so I think our community is very engaged in trying to find a solution for safety for all of the types of transportation that we have. And I think that this grant is, and I do support the grant, I think this grant is one of our very good first steps to try to help with the solution. So I was hoping that we could have a little explanation of the action plans that will be taken, the various steps. And I don't know if that's our city staff that wants to do that, but maybe there's only 5 or 6 people watching this evening, but I do know that several people go to the YouTube videos, and I just like the community to hear what this grant will look like. And I really was pleased to hear about the engagement of this grant, and I think we will have a community that's very engaged. So whoever could do that.
You're in luck because Deputy City Manager Sean Hobbins is fully prepared and
I figured
so
that.
excited to talk about this. So, Deputy, please.
Absolutely. So I think what we're going to see is a year-long planning process, basically. They're going to do an existing conditions analysis, some significant data collection. They're going to review our current bike lane and bike route plan. They're going to review our program and policies regarding active transportation, and then move into engagement with the community. I will say our project total for this is a little bit low. I think our city planner was estimating, for what I was seeking, it would cost over $100,000. So I think this proposal is really robust for what we're getting. But one of the sacrifices is not as much in-person engagement. So they have proposed doing public surveying and then doing what they're calling an active transportation palooza. So basically, they bring their team up for 2 days in May and engage with as many stakeholders in person as possible during that time. Then after they're done gathering all that information, reviewing what information we already have, and reviewing our infrastructure, they're going to prepare an active transportation plan that hopefully we can get adopted by the Planning Commission and City Commission.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So for the community, it looks like April or May will be that time when we get to tell the consultants what we feel needs to be done and where we feel the danger areas are when we look at microtransportation. And it looks like we'll end up with a kind of a mixed plan. And, plans are wonderful, and hopefully, some of them might be simple, some of them might be policy changes or other simple solutions that we can look towards, but other of them may cost us some money, so we need to look towards the future, and a plan is a great place to start. That's all I have to say. Did you have questions?
Did you have anything to add?
Yeah. Thank you, Deputy City Manager. That was very helpful. And I think that this is probably going to be one of those things, one of those areas of public interest that's not going to be put to bed too easily. And I think it's going to be something that you're going to revisit each year and probably try and stay on with whatever's coming next. Things change so quickly in what we're seeing in transportation. It's going to be constant, I would think. So I'm glad to see that we're ahead of this, ahead of the ball on this, even though, you know, we've taken a lot of questions and concerns from the community. But in this first, you know, couple of years of e-bikes especially, and then single wheels and everything like that. The other part with that is I hope that these guys are able to bring some best practices from other communities that, you know, they're obviously incorporating something, bring some of those ideas that we might not be thinking of. And I know that our planning department does a great job, but I always like to see the stuff from other communities that's best practice. So
To be honest with you, I think this is one of the top firms for these kinds of services. This is the firm that the state is employing to do a lot of their planning and conduct a lot of their trainings for communities across the state. So they're the ones really, I think, developing and launching best practices into communities across the state.
So once again, Marquette's going to be used as an example of what to do properly.
Yep.
Good. I'd like to see that.
Any other commissioners?
Again, forgive me, I'm new at this, and so I hope I don't overstate it. I did ask a lot of questions to the city manager earlier on this. This is something I campaigned on, is the whole e-bike issue, and it's clearly important to the citizens that use the multi-use path and the roads. So I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk about it when they can. The Palooza, which is a term I really don't like, but that's me, is scheduled for May. I want to make sure that there are alternative days, or hopefully can be alternative days potentially arranged should a freak snowstorm, windstorm, rainstorm keep people off the streets that day, because that's going to be really important, and I don't know how we can incorporate that.
Sure. I think that's something we'll have to address if that occurs. I'm assuming that, you know, if that happens, there's going to be a lot of flights canceled. We'll have to make sure that they're refunded their travel expenses and can rebook everything.
Yeah.
I think the in-person portion of this is really important. So I would endeavor to make sure that absolutely does happen. But I don't know how to plan for a whole team coming up to Marquette, like having like a plan B in place, other than if an act of God occurs, you know, we'll ask them to reschedule it. And we do have a little bit of contingency in there.
Is there, okay. I know that the city planner is a big-time biker, as am I, and I know that he and I are both going to be really excited to see this come to fruition, and I'm hoping that at the end we'll have a really nice presentation based on the work. And just to show that I really am as anal as you think I am, there is a minor correction in their presentation. They called something the Plan Commission and not the Planning Commission. Does it matter at this point, or is it just me being
I don't.
a smart
The city attorney's not here, unfortunately. But thank you for pointing that out. I didn't think it was big enough to warrant having them redo the contract.
It is.
So,
It's not in the contract, it's in their presentation. So,
I'll make sure in the final documents it's all correct. I'll promise you that.
Just one final comment. You know, as I read their plan, I noticed that the Planning Commission was talked about a few times, or as many as they should have talked about, but I didn't hear anything about the Traffic Advisory Committee. Will they be engaged in this?
Yes, I'm hoping so. I'd like to present to the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee in the next month or so and let them know that this project is coming up, and absolutely invite them to the Palooza, as Commissioner Gottlieb despises, and see what we can work into those 2 days, if we can have a special Traffic Parking Advisory Committee meeting during that time, if that's appropriate. But I'd like to keep them involved.
Anyone else? All right, that's that. Let's bring it to a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to our second public comment session of the evening. If anyone has public comment, please, they may not exceed 3 minutes, and please state your name and physical address.
I knew I'd come up with something. Barb Oudzai, 1324 North Front. Regarding the DDA thing, and then we've got the other thing coming up with the biking and bike routes. This, my thought when I was listening to the DDA presentation was all about, so much of it was about parking. And, if you look at the strong towns approach, and even if you think about the master plan approach, it was really in terms of focusing on driving and parking as opposed to focusing on accessibility, walkability. There's plenty of evidence that shows if you create parking spaces, they will come. If you create, roads, they will come. And I know it sounds kind of goes against the grain, but if you make, I'm just hoping that we think about making our communities not so friendly for automobiles, and we make it more friendly for other forms of transportation. And then when we do things like studying the area for new, e-bike transportation, that we're doing this not in, separate silos, obviously. But you know what I'm saying, right? So there was something else I wanted to talk about. I guess because also I think about the fact that the final Music on 3rd Street, they closed 3rd Street that final time. And God, wouldn't it be great if we would just close 3rd Street permanently, especially with all the issues we have with biking and e-bikes and all that stuff. But I mean, like I said, it's almost like if we don't focus on the parking and the roads and we focus on the other stuff, it's a paradigm shift, of course, because of the way we've been conditioned. And, I have a minute left, but I don't really have that much more to say. And I've said this before, and I may say it again. So that's it. Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment?
Ann White, 136 West Washington Street, and myself, co-founder Scott, and my crew. Thank you all very much for your continuing support. So we appreciate it.
Anyone else for public comment? All right, with that, public comment is closed, and that brings us to comments from the commission. Tonight, I will start with Commissioner Larson.
All right, thanks. Even though I didn't say it, earlier when we were discussing, the tax, the continued tax abatement there, I think, for the commission, supporting, that restoration of the Nordic Theater back into the honorable distillery is really important aspect for using kind of tax mechanisms to help, fund and preserve local history of that building and really continue the downtown's heritage, in the community. So I think that's certainly an appropriate, use of that mechanism moving forward. And, it's also encouraging to see, the focus that we've had on partnerships here today, whether it's through the DDA or whether it's through the active planning, transportation planning. I think really looking at these things to look at best practices and what makes sense for the city, are just really important to our future of Marquette here, especially as we move into the new year and kind of thinking how those things, move along. And then finally, because this is towards the end of the year, just want to encourage, all feedback from public. We are all open here to discussion with you individually, public comment, or, kind of out, during the week that, I think, this is something I've taken out of Jeremy's book here about saying, hey, come see me, come talk to us. And, I think we're all open to that. So thank you.
Perfect. Pro Tem Schlegel.
Thank you, Your Honor, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm just going to kind of echo what I said last week. It is the holiday season. Do your best to look around the stores that are local here, support your local shop owners, your local DDA, or other shops that are elsewhere. Whether it's, if you don't find something that you can buy and wear, at least go and have a bite to eat and experience a little bit of what Marquette has to offer. Tip your waiters and waitresses because they're working hard and they've got a lot of stuff to buy for their family, loved ones, and stuff for the holiday. And along those lines, just happy holiday in general. It's a great time of year. Get out and enjoy the lights. Remember the reason for the season, and we'll see you next year.
Perfect. Commissioner Mayor?
I have no comment this evening.
Okay. Commissioner Hadaway?
happy birthday to the mayor. You stole my thunder. I was going to say that, but you ruined it.
We'll sing it for me then, Jared.
I just wanted to comment first, Barb. I think your idea of the 3rd Street approach, while some people might say, "Oh my God, that's crazy," but it is a very forward-thinking thing. It's one of those things as we go years down the road, we're going to probably look back and say, "Wow, it's unbelievable how many cars used to be on the road." So hopefully we can think about those things and make those shifts, especially in our community, and be the leaders as we have been. And thankfully, I will say that I really think we have staff in place here that is thinking about that and trying to figure out a way to make everything marry together. So thanks for bringing that up tonight. And I will say it's unbelievable to see the amount of support you have here tonight. You must be doing something right. I think it's great. Glad we were able to extend that Oprah. And I know we all look forward to continuing to see what you bring to the downtown. Thank you.
Commissioner Davis?
Happy holidays.
Short and sweet today. Commissioner Gottlieb?
No comment.
All right. That leaves it to me. I only wanted to comment a little bit. I was reached out to by local businesses that surround you, that were making sure that we were going to support you for this, saying they love what you've done to the downtown. So that's always a good sign when people that are working next to you in a competing business, nonetheless, are supporting you. So continue to do what you do there, and it looks wonderful inside. Other than that, happy holidays to everyone and stay safe. I will throw it over to comments from the city manager now.
Thank you, birthday girl, or birthday lady, Mayor Hanley, birthday woman. I hope you have a fun time celebrating your birthday. But for some announcements, I do want to give a special thanks to our city staff in Public Works and Facilities for their hard work on the plow for the holiday parade. If you were not able to see it, it was a Peanuts Snoopy theme, and it was awesome. So a special thanks to Mike Scholand, Travis Aho, Nicole Bennett, and Nicole Shirkowski, I hope I said your last name right, for their design and construction skills. And then also thank you to Chris Tracy for driving the plow in the parade. We could not have had so much fun with this, and they did a phenomenal job as always. So I believe you can check out that plow still in front of the Municipal Service Center, as long as we don't need it for any of that stuff. So, but go check it out if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's still sitting out there all lit up. Perfect. And hopefully we don't need to see it, except for we do want some of that stuff falling. But also, last month we mentioned battery disposal and recycling. And as a reminder, there are several drop-off locations that are listed on the 906 Recycle page. I want to say that because especially before Christmas or before the holidays, we do tend to replace some of our batteries, but then also we tend to need some new ones too. So one thing that I was recently made aware of right before the meeting was watch batteries that we don't always think that those need to be recycled or disposed of properly, but those are generally lithium-ion batteries as well, and there is a special procedure to do that. And while you can go to some of the locations that are on the 906 Recycle homepage, there's also a business, although it is right on the border of the city, Jandon Jewelers came and mentioned that they do accept those batteries, watch batteries or button batteries, at no charge, and can dispose of those. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, happy birthday to Mayor Hanley. Thank you.
All right, I do need to take a little bit of time to thank the fire department for letting me ride in the fire truck during the parade. I failed. They did such a good job, and it was a really good conversation.
Which truck were you in?
I got to ride in the Jenna Smith.
And that is the yellow or green one?
The yellow-green truck, yes. And it was very fun, and my son had a very fun time waving to everyone from it. So it was good. He did agree to finally ride with me. But with that, this meeting is adjourned at 7:04 p.m.